All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Guillermo. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Guillermo CAZENAVE accepted our invitation to our show. Guillermo, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Claudio. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Man, I gotta ask you, this has been a year and a half now, a weird year for everybody with all what's going on with the pandemic. How is this affecting you, your sanity? How are you holding up after, almost 2 years now, man?
Well, Claudio, I spent so many years in my recording studio, and for me, the outside, it was like a virus. So it was like a virus many years ago. I mean, when people died from stress, from a political idea, I don't know. I decided at that time that I would give my life and my brain and my emotions to the virus of music, or to the people that I could love. So what we are living now, for me, is nothing new. I spent half of my life in a recording studio, isolated. But what is going on now has sharpened myself in my observation of life and of human behavior. So I've been working a lot, writing a lot, and remixing my old recordings. So it was egoistical. It was good for me.
Good for you, man. Yeah, good for you. Let's go back to the beginning. Were you born like in a musical family in Argentina? How old were you when you started playing guitar or taking piano lesson at the time? How old were you? Or drum lesson at the time?
Yeah, I started my first musical instrument was my grandmother's bagpipe. It was a bagpipe. That bagpipe of the McInnes family, my mother's family. They were a very poor Scottish clan, surrounded by all the greats, Mackenzie, Mackintosh, Anderson. My mother's or my grandmother's family had been invaded in Scotland by the McInnes, so they had to run. They had to run to the States and to Argentina in the 19th century, and they had no weapons. They had no large lands, but they had something great. They were the ones who created the first bagpipes in the Isle of Skye. So I had that bagpipe, and I started to play.
There's something weird in the image.
Yeah, there was a fly.
Yeah. Ah, gotcha.
It was a fly. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. So how you end up, after Argentina, how do you end up were you here in United States before you moved to Europe, or the other way around?
Yeah. Before I left Argentina, I studied the bagpipe just for a while, then drums for 5 years, then guitar for years, and then piano and flute. And then I emigrated to New York, That was in the 1974.
Gotcha.
So that was, the mid-70s.
So,
yes.
And then you spent some years here in the United States, and then you end up finally in Europe, right?
Yeah, 2-3 years in the United States, 5 years in London, in England, and then in Spain and in south of France.
Gotcha. Man, I had the opportunity to listen to all your stuff, most of your recording, and your music or your style, your genre can be classified into cosmic, electronic, Celtic, folk, progressive, new age, from your point of view, what style of music is in which we could place you if you look back in all the stuff you have done?
Well, that's a good question, because Claudio, I feel much more than a musical style. You know what I do start from concepts, from symbolism,
Yeah.
and from things that I cannot always analyze, but that I can bring to music. So, and from all this, something arises, and I use an idea with a musical instrument, and it's something very intuitive and something very mental, and then the melody and the rhythm comes together like Lennon's come together like Lennon's song. And in that sense, I always try to resignify music, as it happens with psychoanalysis. And so I started composing music in the late 60s. I always try to guide myself with intuition. So no matter what I was doing, and that's why I think that I do not have a concrete musical style. Sometimes it's new age or relaxing, sometimes it's progressive or even pop, rock. It's so difficult for me to define which style.
And also, not just you're a musician, but you are a writer as well. So would you consider yourself a musician that writes music and write books, or the other way around? A writer that like music and compose music, or sound researchers? Where in which kind of bucket can we put you?
Well, for me, music is definitely a language, and it's like an invisible tool that allows me to access to other dimensions. And music is like a permanent challenge to my human limitations. So since a long time, I decided that I will not consider myself a single thing. So I can be a writer. It's so difficult when a person says, I am a doctor, I am an artist, I am a businessman or a businesswoman. We are indicating a profession. We are much more than that, of course. And I don't know, I feel now sometimes like a preacher, like a priest. Maybe in 2 hours I will be a chef because I will cook. At night I will be a writer, a musician, a lover, whatever. So I feel half and half writer, half musician. But definitely I wrote about 6 or 7 books. I've been producing much more albums than books, definitely. Much more musician.
I got you. And look at your style. Your music is so versatile. So, but you're if we could, put you in one category, you are more well known for your relaxing or new age album, if you will, right? Although yes. I know you have done a lot more. So some people, when think about Guillermo, think about that category, but I know you have done a lot more, and I'm very grateful that you sent me a lot of your music. So.
This is a trauma for me, because sometimes it seems like everyone was pointing the arrow, at the same place or to the same place, and perhaps it's laziness or I don't know, but many people for many years have been asking me for the same music, and I've been about 15 years that situation, with people asking me relaxing music, new age music. When I returned to other sounds, some people got a bit aggressive with me, saying, this is not relaxing, this is not New Age, this is, I don't know, there are no sounds of nature, no birds, you know. So I refused to be part or to be a part of that New Age. It was completely boring. So it was like nobody wanted to grow up. Always the same symposiums, the same workshops, the same speeches or whatever. So one day I decided I was going to make my own music, and I said bye-bye to the New Age. I realized that sometimes it was like an expression, you know, like a I don't know, like an expression of love, you know. Sometimes the maximum expression of love can be a breakup. So I said to the New Agers, bye-bye, that's it. And if you don't like what I'm doing, it's not my guilt, it's not my problem. I got lots of, I like a cocktail, like you know, my brain, musical, and I need to express all that. So I gave up, you know. I said bye-bye to the New Age, and I lost money and I lost friends, but I did it.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to that the label, so to speak, or style, New Age. It was very popular about, I don't know, 30 years ago or so. I wonder if it was like a real movement of music or simple wallpaper music or music that people put in the background where while they were doing something else, where they were cooking or whatever. For me, it's no music in the background. When I buy a new CD and I listen to a new artist or I interview a person, I need to listen to stuff. I cannot put in the background. I'm not being a good critic of someone's music if I don't really listen to stuff. So music in the background, I don't know, it doesn't mean anything. It's like reading a book and watching TV at the same time. Either you do one or you do the other, right? So you're not watching the show and or you're not reading the book. So either you listen to the music or not, right? So I don't know what, you know, feel free to elaborate what New Age means to you, or then what happened to the music, or was a real movement or not. I don't know.
Because you're right. Because in the embryonic New Age, in the beginning, we were looking for some kind of mystical connection.
Yeah.
Being and trying to be like healthy musicians, because we were against angry musicians. You know what I mean? Rock, you know, always dressed in black leather and with their legs on the table, you know, all this attitude. And we didn't like also the attitude of egocentric musicians saying, here I am a great composer with no time to talk with you, you know. So I wanted to help with my music to cope with the planetary acceleration. I wanted to do it with dignity. I didn't like that pop rock musicians thinking all day about succeeding in America, buying mansions, collecting guitars, and, you know, and having expensive recording studios. You know, Claudio, that seems like obscene to me, because my parents raised me not to be more than others and to be discreet and avoiding success. In this point, I feel more Celtic than Roman. And the original New Age started out, I don't know, as something Celtic, like Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells. But then Virgin Romanized it and ended in Tubular Bells 2, Tubular Bells 3, you know. So in that point, I I believe in the original New Age, not the 80s or 90s New Age that was more related with the record industry.
Yeah. You mentioned before infinity and our connection to infinity. You have roughly done close to 100 albums, over 1,000 compositions. Where the inspiration from musician come from? I mean, you were labeled in that area, but you have done, as I said before, many different type of music. Where the inspiration come from? If you could elaborate on that question.
Well, the compositional process is to make mine a melody that moves somewhere. I don't know where. Sometimes I like throw myself to that ocean, and suddenly I rescue something. Bob Dylan said one time that I only just rescue a melody. So I know that there are things that force me not to fully take off like an astronaut. Life continues here on Earth. And when I compose, I try to find a balance between what I like and what is possible. And that's how music comes to me. For me, composing, improvising, jamming, or even dreaming a melody is the same thing. It's the same thing. So sometimes it's, I don't know, it's something that I cannot control.
Yeah, I got you. Do you think some people maybe maybe in general for a musician or artist don't have a choice, right? They were born with a talent, and either they have the aptitude to do it and go forward, or no forward. So sometimes a musician or a writer or a painter doesn't have a choice. Was born with a talent and perhaps a purpose in life, and to write music or to paint. Do you think, in your opinion, it should music have a purpose in life, or in your case, well, I have no choice. Even though I'm doing other stuff, my tendency is to write, listen, pick up my guitar, pick up my, drum set or piano, whatever. Do you have a choice, or you don't?
Yes, this is a very good question. It's a very profound question that I think that, I don't know, I will always defend music with an attitude of flight, for musicians and for the people who listen to music, as an alternative to those who make and sell music to enrich themselves or for pure ego. So I think that we must be honest with ourselves. And in that sense, I think that the music define purposes in being, in one way, in an honest attitude, or in a commercial attitude. I decided to choose the honest commercial. I don't mind to be commercial. I don't mind if an album sells, but it must be always an honest attitude. So that was my decision when I started, definitely.
Right. Being famous or being rich or sell a record is a byproduct of a good quality of music, right? So you don't at the beginning, you don't say, well, I want to write great music or great composition because I want to be rich, right? It's the other way. I want to write great music because I was born to do this job, and then it so happened that the quality of the product is very good. You will do well and you will sell product, you will buy a house or whatever that is, whatever comes after that. So it's like a byproduct of great work or great painter or whatever. I mentioned before that you have I don't know, probably close to 100 albums, CDs or vinyl, if you will. Again, for someone who doesn't know your music, which one, if you need to pick only three, which one would you recommend for new people that are start to listen to your music?
If I had to choose, one could be at the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. I composed in England. It was like a suite, Vikings, dedicated to the different Vikings. And then in the 90s, maybe Here, it's an album called Here. And then in this century, probably the album Ser, S-E-R, and lately Milagros, which is miracles.
Yeah,
miracles that I composed. I don't know. I just recorded the Milagros 3 months ago. So if I had to choose, it's difficult. It's so difficult.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's like a painter who have done 100, right?
Yes.
The painter maybe shouldn't choose the three. The observer should pick the best three according to them, not according to him, right? So it's like you may think I have interviewed many musicians that tell me, well, according to me, I know that I put all the effort into doing this particular album X, whatever that means, and I know that from my point of view, I did the best I could. Everything works out, and then from the reception, the public, they say, well, no, that's a terrible album, album X is bad. It's not selling, it's not doing well, no radio station, no playing. Album Y is much better, and 10 people think are the Y instead of from
that's right.
It's a perception, the perception versus the inventor of what music or album, whatever it is. Man, you have done collaboration with Ronald Lloyd, with Jeremy Morris, Stephen Halbert, and our mutual friend Anthony Felix. That Anthony Philip had been very well received. But I would like to ask you about how your work and your friendship with Anthony came about, and then also, of course, the famous album, The Meadows of Englewood. I did have the opportunity to interview, I think it was, if I remember correctly, I have done over 100 interviews now, and Anthony Philip was interview number 3 or so. So I'm very grateful to him, and I want to say hello to him as well if he end up watching this interview. But feel free to elaborate how you end up meeting Anthony in your early 20s, and then working with him, collaborate with him, and now you've been friend with him for, I don't know, 50 years now or so, right?
Well, Anthony is a great musician, as you know, great composer, and a very good friend. I met him in a very strange way, because I remember that it was in 1980 or 81, and I'd been living in London, and he had just bought his house in London. I think that he had to deal with a mortgage, and he began to teach guitar. And I was living between London and Sitges, town near Barcelona, and I've been recording my Vikings album and studying music of the spheres, Pythagoras, and the ancient Vikings music in the library of the British Museum. I was just studying. Probably I'd be 24 years old, and Ant was 28. So I was looking for someone to give me 4 or 5 classes, guitar classes, to have new tunings for my 12-string guitar. So then I contacted him. I got in touch. I knew that he was just restarting his musical career. Then, well, I asked him if firstly, if he knew new ways for tuning 12-string guitar. I knew the music of Genesis because I had seen them live in New York in the mid-70s.
Wow.
So I met him several times at his house, but he had to be a teacher to pay for his house, and I was looking, honestly, I was looking for new friends and colleagues to share music and new ideas. So we were very young. As I said, I was 25 years old, 24, and he was 28 or 29. So I couldn't study those musical tunings with, and he was very busy at that time. Me too. So I definitely studied later on with my friend Ronald Lloyd, who taught me modal scales and microtone and different ways for tunings. He was a former oboist in the Halle Orchestra in times of Sir John Barbirollis, the director. So I had the honor to play with Ronald Lloyd, and then but Anthony and I kept in touch. And in the middle of the 19s or 80s, I used to go to London and stay in his house. In the middle of the 90s, after I finished a concert in France, in south of France, and I had to go on tour to the United States, and I stopped in London for a week at his house, and we spent 3 or 4 days jamming and connecting very well musically and personally. And one afternoon we started playing non-stop, and for 37 minutes it became that wonderful suite called later on The Meadows of Englewood. It just came out. It was magical. It was voted once in England as one of the 5 best suites, extensive suites in the history of this music. So
Wow.
Meadows was voted with tubular bells, with Tarkus, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Suppers Ready, and Close to the Edge. We made videos which were the first Anthony had, and that he was able to use these videos on his website. And we've been with many friends of mine and radio and TV contacts in Spain. So we played in different radio programs, TV programs. He came to my house twice in Spain. And I've been with my daughter at his house, and we had a great time. And Anthony is an excellent host too. So we have been in museums and going to many places together. So that's how it came. Or we started in a surreal way, but we continued being friends. And now we got this album, 2 albums together, which I love, and I love his music. He's a great composer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, if I never thought that. Well, let me tell you a story. So I knew of that particular album you're referring to, and of course, growing up in Chile, I didn't have money to buy. At the time, we didn't have CDs, so if somebody owned the vinyl, would make you a tape, and you listen to the tape, and so forth. So I knew of that particular album, and I say to myself, hey, one day I will, go to university, make money, and then buy that CD, and listen to Genesis music at the time. I didn't know who you were at the time, and And now looking back, you know, I have like 3 copies of that CD and signed by you guys. Have talked to you, have talked to Anthony a couple of times. So it's like a miracle, you know, that that for something that I dream now, I'm able to talk to the real person behind the music. So I'm great that that you guys end up, capturing and recording. Some band, do jamming. They're jamming for 3 days. They don't record anything, so it doesn't exist. So I'm glad that you were able to record that, and now the whole world knows about the album, which is very rare. And every time you see a copy in I don't know, eBay or when Amazon or whatever, they go for like, I don't know, $200 or something like that. So it's, there are no many copies around, and it's a lot of people are willing to pay good money for that.
Well, this is because I didn't sign with any record company,
Yeah.
and it started like a musical encounter, 2 friends, and with 500 manufactured CDs.
Yeah.
But later it continued to be an album that sold thousands and was really,
absolutely right.
was re-released with a DVD, and now it's available in my website. So yeah, it is great how we all connect, now with, of course, with you, that you are making an amazing work with more than 100 interviews. So it's fantastic. Now internet give us
the opportunity, right? So as I mentioned before, all my radios are free. I buy all the music, all original music, 24 hours a day, no advertising, no social media, nothing, just great music. And then from the interviews, and I have done now 102, and then I want to do 200, 300, 500, whatever. So some year from now, somebody will say, who was Anthony Philip? Yeah, go on the radio there and the interview that Claudio did, or Guillermo, or I don't know, Phil Collins down the road, and Manuel Goshin from Astro Tempo, and Klaus Schulze or Peter Baumann or whatever electronic music. So I want to keep this for as a record for everybody to have the opportunity to see what their music was about, and then playing their music on the radio. So you don't have to go to Spotify. You can come here and not only enjoy music but interview the interviews and friendship with people. That's what it's about. So,
this is fantastic, Claudio. And we both are Spanish speaking,
of course,
guys.
yes.
Now we are having this chat in English, which is it's great. Also, I'm practicing my English now.
Right, and people, the English is the most spoken language in the world, in the whole business. So we need to do it in English so that people can appreciate that. Man, you have so many stories when you time and when you were living. If you choose between groups like Genesis with Peter Gabriel, or Pink Floyd, or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Led Zeppelin, which one will you pick, and why? If you can only pick one,
Well, without hesitation, I would choose Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd. Why? Well, since his time with Syd Barrett, passing through Roger Waters' period, and now or later on with David Gilmour's period. For me, Pink Floyd is the musical representation of the great cosmic architecture. They are the builders of that sound, the Freemasons of that musical cathedral, That's why they started studying architecture, Pink Floyd, in Cambridge.
Yeah.
Even they got one of them named Mason, which is amazing. His music has nothing to do with the virtuosity of Yes, or with the inspiration of Genesis, or with the lyrics of Peter Gabriel. Because Pink Floyd, in my opinion, goes beyond beyond music. I think that it is a communication through universal consciousness. You know,
Yeah.
that was not achieved by any other group except the Beatles. The Beatles on 2 or 3 albums. The Beatles has Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's, and Abbey Road.
Yeah.
But Pink Floyd got all this
Yeah.
dimension, that this is a connection to infinity. This is something that goes further, you know, beyond music. Beyond.
Absolutely. Some people say that your music is a bit in many ways prophetic, based on the kind of music and based on the titles that you use on purpose, of course. Uh, do your composition reflect in a way a special meaning, a special knowledge, if you will?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like something that is maybe synchronized. When a melody settles on me, inside me, and sometimes images emerge, and names even connects with me, and I am not aware what is happening. Maybe later on, so I feel like when a melody comes to me, I feel like a vehicle. I don't feel like a composer. I'm just a vehicle of something that comes and that I must. It's like I am reading the air, you know, like I am reading the space. So these sensations, I feel, I connect with all this. They are like subtle elements that I must absorb. And I know, I think that this is something that goes beyond the dimensions. That's why many things that musicians do, many musicians, at some points becomes prophetic, but we are just vehicles. We do not realize it. It's like somehow the universe is using us for being vehicles. Just that's it. So for me, saying I am a composer, no. I am just a vehicle of melodies that come, and I must just play it for other people. It's my job.
Yeah. Well, you have, but it's no, yeah, people may know you for for your music, but you are a lot more than a musician. You know, you are a writer, you are a journalist, you have participated in many programs in Spain with very famous people. Also, feel free to elaborate on the not just in your music, but in music therapy, and your music end up traveling in a space, in a NASA spacecraft. Feel free to elaborate how that came together, because not many people know the stuff. It's feel free to elaborate how you end up collaborating with NASA, how your music end up in space, so to speak.
Well, I've been giving speeches about the music of the spheres, and firstly, I started in the airports for pilots, also trying to convince to these people that they should always have one channel with music for relaxation. You know, at that time it was something completely new. Later on, I've been in Florida and in Houston, the NASA, and they liked it, what I was doing. So they offered me to have my first CDs on their shop. They got the shop. Later on, I gave some speeches to astronauts. Afterwards, I got that music that uh, piece of music called Fly High, which is instrumental, and they chose it's not a song, so it's an instrumental piece of music, and they had to decide which music were going to let shuttle, and they it was full of great, very famous songs of Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World, John Lennon's Imagine, Pink Floyd, and they, in all that amazing salad of great songs, they put my Fly High my music. So it was an honor for me being part of that music. I don't know, it's so difficult to know if that will help in the future or get in contact with other intelligent.
Yeah, no, that's a very good story, and I want to bring it to attention our listener because not many people know that stuff. We live in a crazy world with, we fighting one another. The United States getting into war with other countries, and some countries are going crazy and killing one another. We killing the planet, we killing the animals. Do you think the human being will be able to harmonize themselves, or we are blowing this planet and then we will go to another planet, maybe we'll destroy that planet in years. And, what's the solution, all this stuff?
Well, I think that firstly, I think that we all got like an internal enemy, and that enemy leads us to confrontation, sometimes with ourselves, sometimes with the others, and violence is even before childbirth. It's in the nature, it's in the universe, because a Big Bang is violence. A black hole is violence. When somebody imposed or tried to impose an ideology or a way of thinking, is violence. An orgasm is violence. So violence is everywhere. So I think that we can transmute, is the word, I don't know, transmute that violence and bring out our creative side, our capacity to love and to share with other people and beings. We are capable of being in solidarity and doing wonderful things. So we must choose, we must fight for this side, and we must transcend, transmute violence in that will be the solution for humankind.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. So I need to ask you the question. You had humble beginning in 1969 with your older brother using a reel-to-reel recorder, to now over 100 albums, many books, have done gigs everywhere, giving lecture, your music in a space. Have you ever could have anticipated that you will end up where you are today?
No.
I think your dad wanted for you to no, forget about music. That's nonsense. Go to school, study law, like your brother or your sister or your uncle. We are a very serious family, and you say, no, I'm a rebel. I want to do music. Now look back, man.
That's right. My father was a lawyer, but he also he studied guitar. He used to sing French music.
Yeah, wow.
Because he was French origin, and I didn't like that music anyway. And his mother said, "You must be a serious man." So he had to study for being a lawyer. I don't know. It's so difficult. I didn't know what in the beginning. I knew that I was born a musician, that even studying or not, selling records or just playing at home. That definitely I was a musician, because since I was 7 years old, I've been playing bagpipe. Uh, so I don't know. The music, it was always in me myself, you know. So I never realized that I was going to be a professional, because in one point I hate that word, professional. I like Charles Chaplin said, we are all amateurs. We don't have enough time for being professionals in life. So I love that, you know, that phrase. So I always feel like a student, and so I never realized that I was going to sell records, even to produce records, or to giving speeches, or lectures, or you know, traveling, giving. Never. For me, that was for other people. Definitely.
Yeah, and looking back at your career, you have played with so many people in so many countries, doing small concert, big concert, theaters, many auditoriums. If you look back, is any particular concert that you can look back and say, man, that everything worked. I have great memories of playing here. The lights was great, the audience was great. It was a beautiful day. Is anyone in particular you can look back in your life and say, man, I could die tonight because that it doesn't get any better than that, you know.
My
Downhill from there.
One of my concerts, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yes, definitely the best one was in Mexico,
Yeah,
in Monterrey, because
yeah,
last night they had in that theater, opera theater,
yeah,
they had a Wagner trilogy,
yeah,
and they got all the scenery with all for Wagner.
yeah.
So and they had to take it off because I had to play the day after.
After, yeah,
When I saw that, I asked them, please leave it like that. Leave all the Wagner, uh, you know. So I played that concert like in a Wagner scenery. That it was for me. It was so magical, because when I saw Wagner's music first time in my life, when I've been 15 years old with my father, Tristan and Isolda in the Column Theater in Buenos Aires. Oof, I didn't know what was going on, you know, it was too much for me. So then afterwards, when I was at that time 35, so that I had the chance to play in that opera, with all that scenery, definitely it was my best concert.
ever, right? So, what are your plans for the near future, Guillermo? Are you planning? I know you are re-recording and mixing all your old stuff, well, putting your website together, and then your YouTube channel. Any way, do you plan any new lectures, any gigs coming on the road?
I don't think, but I am now working at home, as you said, remastering my reel-to-reel recordings. I am writing now 2 books at the same time, living between southern France and northern Spain. So now my nearest future, from now to the next 2 years, would be, my project is to finish the remastering
Yeah.
of all my old albums, to finish these 2 books. Definitely no gigs, and just staying at home working.
And this is the last question. Feel free to mention your website and the channel that you put in together, and where the listener can buy your music and so on and so forth.
Well, I got all my music free in YouTube.
Yeah.
Around now 70 albums. My channel is my name, Guillermo Cazenave. Yeah. And I got building now a new website, myname.com.
Yeah.
Hopefully I would love to reconnect with many people that I lost contact in the last 10 years because I've been isolated mostly in south of France. And Claudio, thank you for this interview. You are such a great man, journalist. It's amazing to talk. It's like it's not an interview. It's just
it's a conversation. I never thought that interview should be like a real interview. For me, it's 2 people that enjoy the field in this area is music, and talk about their music, the past, their life history, music composition, the best, the worst, and 2 human beings, enjoy music. That's what it's about. It's not a real interview.
I think that we both grew up listening to the same music. Yeah. So it's like musical brothers, yeah?
That's right, absolutely.
That's the same root.
Right. And it's funny doing that. We both speak Spanish. You're from Argentina, from Chile. We need to do it in English because for the audience.
We are neighbors. It's like France and England. France and England is a relationship of hate and love.
Yeah.
Of love and hate.
Yeah.
And Argentina and Chile is the same relationship.
That's right. All right, Guillermo. Thank you very much. It was very nice talking to you, and have a good evening, man.
Thank you, Claudio, and have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.